Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to my recap of the season 2 finale of Insecure. I thought it was a good finale. I like non-linear, non-traditional storytelling. I think there's a lot of places for it to go. Issa may or may not have a job next season. Living with her brother, I don't know how that's going to work out. He's good TV, but he's also very much an asshole. Molly in this Dro situation, it hasn't ended, so there's an opportunity for growth. She's now dealing with her coworker, Preacher Body. And Tiffany, who's always been very proper and very righteous. I think there's more to this pregnancy than meets the eye right now. Oh, and shout out to the DP. The lighting on this show, absolutely beautiful. The way they put together a shot. Maybe there was a new director or the DP was very inspired by the non-linear storytelling, but it worked for me. But let's get into what happened in this episode. You know, I was watching the previews from last week. Something I realized I didn't mention. When Lawrence calls Issa a hoe, Aparna is close enough to overhear that conversation. I thought it was worth mentioning to be wary of how a man disrespects his exes. The vast majority of people that you date, you're not going to end up married to. If he treats his ex like, he will probably treat you like when you become the ex too. So that marathon that Lawrence and his co-workers were training for a couple episodes back, it's now come to fruition. Lawrence is running with Aparna, his girlfriend, it seems. While he's running, he sees Issa and Molly on the sidelines and clearly feels away. Later, he's at the house hanging out with Aparna. It's a few weeks after the marathon. Lawrence is cooking for her. Lawrence says the marathon felt really good to him because he hasn't been in a leadership position in a while. Were you leading the marathon or you were leading the group in training for the marathon? I'm not really sure. It gave him some new inspiration. He's feeling like he should try for another app to develop something at work. And Aparna suggests to him, because she's been there way longer, that maybe you should join another team first and see how things are done and what to expect. She's really good work guidance for him. She's a cute girl. I see this as a different way of masking his hurt. Before, he was just trying to away with anybody who's consenting or available. Now it seems like he's trying to throw himself into a relationship that he's clearly not ready for. This plays out in the very next scene. He and Aparna are at some really beautiful restaurant. Where is that? Aparna is on Lawrence for buying some speakers instead of buying a couch. The couch symbolizes something for Lawrence and Issa. I think it's like their last major purchase before their breakup. And also, I think when you live with someone, sometimes you have to make the practical decisions. But when you live alone, you could do dumb like have a flat screen TV and have your guests sitting on folding chairs. Lawrence mentions that he took Aparna's advice, that he signed up to work on the new app. He says he's not really sure how it's going. And she's like, oh yeah, Colin, her ex, mentioned that things were going really well. Lawrence seemed to be under the impression that that was a one-time fling, but come to find out they had sex multiple times. To me, that would be a red flag. I wouldn't want to work in the office with a woman who knocked down the dude that I'm dating. It would be uncomfortable for me. I would be like, oh, like I'm dating the office pass around. You had sexual partners before me. I totally get that. That doesn't mean I want to see them every day. At the house, Lawrence has Chad and Derek by helping him put up his new TV. Men bond by doing things together. Lawrence mentions to them that his new girl has an ex at work. The guys get real rah-rah and territorial. Chad is like, oh, women don't need to have male friends. Derek, who's usually pretty chill, like, oh, there was a situation with my wife at work and I went and shut that down. Based on Tiffany's disappearing act later in the episode, I'm not quite sure you did. They tell Lawrence to basically handle that. The way that he did, I don't think that that's what they meant. Lawrence mentioned trying to hear Sports Center when he was in the shower, but that's not what they turned to. The men are trying to catch the finale of Due North. Due North is Scandal meets Underground, which never should have been taken off the air, and please God, let it find a new home. But this is the best show that has never aired. And those little snippets at the end, I was in heaven. I would watch that. I would sit there and binge watch that foolery. The next scene, Lawrence and Aparna are in the car going to the movies. She's all in her phone laughing at something. Lawrence was like, is Colin that funny? Sir, there are other people in her phone other than Colin. And then after she explains she's laughing at something her sister sent, he implies that Aparna is a liar. You're not ready for the dating world. You need to be on the therapist's couch. That's the world that you're ready for, the world of therapy. Aparna was like, pull the car over. I'm not here for your shenanigans today. I will give the girl credit because I didn't see that in her. I thought she was just down for whatever because, you know, some chicks just like to be the cleanup woman. She had a little more self-respect than I was expecting from her. She saw Issa's number pop up on the phone and she was like, oh no, I'm not going through this. I wonder how messy that's going to get next season, because Aparna's already knocked down 2 dudes at the job, and she likes to go back and spill her tea. Is she going to go back and tell everybody at the office how insecure Lawrence is? Or she and Colin going to be laughing about that? I'm not a fan of dating where you work, and this situation is exactly why. Our girl Molly is at the race. She's with Issa. They've shown up to watch Kelly run. Molly's bob looks like heaven. Oh my God, her hair is so cute this episode. Both of them are like, oh, Kelly was training? If your friends didn't know you were training for a marathon, you weren't training for a marathon. Molly says that Quentin, her coworker from the Chicago office, is coming to LA. Quentin is the one I call Preacher Body. We're not changing his name just because you said it several times in this episode. Molly wants to do something with him that's very casual, that doesn't give the indication that she wants to date him. Molly has a type. She liked them light-skinned, silky hair dudes, and Quentin is not that. I think he's good for Molly, but once again, I'm not a fan of dating where you work. Tiffany and Derek show up. One of them gets a text from Kelly saying that she's already at the finish line. The group walks over to find out that Kelly ran 9 miles, says she got her period and couldn't run anymore. The group is standing there talking about Kelly's marathon when Tiffany just sort of randomly announces that she's pregnant. And poor Issa, she's standing there in the group. She looks over and sees Lawrence and Aparna celebrating their win. Tiffany and Kelly point out that everyone in their group is doing well, except Issa. I don't get the sense that Tiffany and Kelly really like Issa. She's not accomplished professionally as the circle she rolls in. Like, they're inappropriate in front of her. They talk down to her. They're great TV, but they're horrible friends to you. Like Tiffany points out, she's like, I'm pregnant and Kelly's getting healthy and Molly's looking for work, and Issa pipes in like, oh, I'm moving. I think maybe she just felt like she had to say something, so it sounded like she wasn't just stagnant. Okay, so her life is not as together as it could be, but if that's your homegirl and you feel like you must comment on it, help her strategize. Don't clown her. On the work front, Molly has an interview with a black firm and she kills it. Her plan is to get a bunch of offers from different firms and go back to her bosses with the offers and see if they can match it or top it, because she wants them to know that other people see her worth. She's with Quentin at the restaurant and he really bigs her up. He's like, yo, you're the most beautiful woman here. You're very talented. You have opportunity. They have jokes and chemistry in common. He just doesn't look like the person Molly believes she should end up with. She finally went back to her therapist. Thank God Molly went back to that woman. The therapist says she should get out of the should and live in the could. Molly is on her way out. She's about to make another appointment with the therapist when she gets the I miss you text from Dro. Ma'am, you need to book the next hour and sit there and talk about that Dro situation, because I got a feeling you and your therapist talked about everything but that and the situation with your parents that threw you for a left. The next time she's in Chicago, she's working late in Quentin's office. He breaks out some Hennessy. Molly can't even claim she was drunk. She has like 2 sips, climbs on top of him and starts riding him. You and Lawrence just walking right across flat earth and falling off the edge. The therapist suggested that she try something new. It didn't mean at the first opportunity. It's okay to actually date and get to know someone. You don't have to lead with your sexual organs, because you've been doing that and that hasn't been working for you. What you really want is a commitment, and you do this physical bonding long before you do any emotional bonding. I have a feeling that's going to be real messy too. 3 of the 4 girls are at Issa's to watch Due North. I love that show. We learned earlier when Derek was at Lawrence's that Tiffany was supposed to be watching Due North with the girls, but Kelly gets a text saying that she isn't coming. Later, Tiffany hits the girls for details about the show. When Tiffany says she wasn't coming, the girls just assume that it's because she's pregnant, maybe she's not feeling well. But I would imagine that if you were pregnant and tired, you would be at home and you would have access to a TV with cable. So where was Tiffany when she was calling to get details? After the show goes off, Issa asks the girls to help her pack up her apartment. Kelly treats Issa like shit. Kelly is like, oh, throw everything away. And then she talks about like how crappy her apartment is. Molly suggests that maybe she gets a roommate, or maybe she sells some of her stuff to get money. There's still a question of where Issa is moving to. Later we find out it's with her brother. I thought it was interesting when she was with Daniel, she wasn't thinking about where this was going to go. She wasn't thinking Lawrence would ever find out. Certainly that he would find out and leave, but he did. And she can't afford the rent anymore. And that one of the unintended consequences of cheating was that she would have to leave her space. That's something people don't think about. Fast forward, At work, Molly's bosses have heard that she's been interviewing around town. They give her a speech about how she's very valuable, she does good work, and they don't want to lose her, despite knowing that they're paying the white boy who does less work way more money than Molly. They give her literally a gold star. I was so insulted for her. They pretty much forced Molly to go take another job, which I hope she does. She seems very hell-bent on staying with this firm. She's debating going to the black firm where she feels like they may value her more. At the house, Kelly had pointed out that there's pros and cons to working with black people versus working with white people. She's like, black people get too familiar, whereas you work with white people, you have to contort yourself to make them more comfortable, which in my experience, it's very true. Before I went out on my own, I worked for 2 white companies and 2 black companies. They do get familiar. I found white folk pay me more. Sometimes that familiarity be like, oh, do it for the team, do it for the cause, do it for the culture. No, run me my money. Our friend Issa, girl, I'll tell you what I do relate to. Living in a neighborhood that's being gentrified. It's basically a local form of colonizing. You walk down the street in your own neighborhood where you've been living for 7 to 10 years or hell, all your life. And white people look at you like, what are you doing here? No, mofo, what are you doing here? At work, Issa is there on a Saturday working with Latino students. She and Frida, the big boss lady, is there. And she's like, oh, this is so awesome. You guys are working on a Saturday. What made you think to use the building? And Issa, old Ned Stark ass, just want to be honest and truthful and tell the boss the full story, how the principal was racist and was excluding the Latino students. The boss flips. She's like, yo, you're a lawsuit waiting to happen. We're running segregated sessions now. What are you thinking? Ma'am, you're about to lose your job. That's kind of what I thought was going to happen. I thought Frizzy hair would actually be the one to dime Issa out. I'm glad that she did something about the problem of excluding the Latino students. Had she handled it a better way, I think she would have got the promotion that Frida got later in the episode. Outside her building, Issa's selling her stuff. Big Head from Issa's apartment building swings by. He has a lady friend with him. Old girl he's with wants to buy the couch. Issa decides not to sell the couch though. Instead, she calls Lawrence. She doesn't know that Lawrence doesn't have a couch and is in need of one. Personally, I think you should have sold it because baby girl, you need the money. She tells him to come by between 2 and 6 and that she won't be at the apartment. When she goes back with her brother, guess who's sitting up in the apartment waiting for her? Their conversation in the kitchen. Most people, when you leave a relationship, you don't get an apology for the mistakes that were made. You don't get to have a conversation to say, I wish I could have done better and I'm really sorry. It was good closure. It really did touch me to hear him admit his mistakes and to tell her that he was sorry that he didn't live up to her expectations. Lawrence been watching Iyanla Fix My Life. Iyanla had a 3-part series with men who had children by a bunch of different women. And she explained to them that why women get so upset is because you failed to live up to your promise. And that hurts. And Issa owned her part. She was like, I could have done more. Cheating on you was the worst thing that I ever could have done. And I want you to know that it wasn't about you. They both ended the conversation with tears in their eyes. And I felt so bad when they were standing at the door. That fantasy tripped me out. Lawrence turned around and got on one knee and I was like, oh my God, that was a lot for me. Don't be playing with my feelings like that. After the montage of Lawrence proposing and them living happily ever after, but still living in the same apartment. And I was like, honey, you got to expand your dreams. You go marry this man and then have the brown sex and get pregnant and then bring the baby back to this tiny ass apartment. I felt bad for Issa and Lawrence when Lawrence said goodbye. Because these are 2 people who have admitted to each other that they're still in love with each other. And while I'm not necessarily sure that they're best for one another, the truth is they want to be together, but they don't have the proper communication skills or forgiveness skills or ego management skills to work out their problems. There's an opportunity and a possibility there. They just don't know how. Issa goes to Molly's, and because Molly has a little check, she decorated the apartment to look like Morocco. Molly looks beautiful. That red and gold and her head wrap, that was everything to me. Issa, they be doing this girl wrong on the show. They be having Issa look a little dumpy sometimes. Of all the relationships on the show, romantic, platonic, Molly and Issa's is my favorite. Even the relationship that each character has with themselves, still, my favorite relationship is between Molly and Issa. I just wish that they would treat themselves with the same kindness that they treat each other. Issa leaves Molly's house the next morning in a Lyft. In the car, she gets a notification that Lawrence has added her back on Facebook. I guess that's sort of a digital olive branch. I assumed Issa was headed to her brother's house. Earlier in the episode, Issa said to her brother that she was going to be there in 4 days. And her brother's like, no, 5. I just assumed her brother was going to open up the house to her. Apparently not, because Issa takes the cab to Daniel's house. Seriously, Daniel? You still her, Daniel, after how she did you? He must really like Issa. I thought Daniel had a little more self-respect than some of the other characters, because you wouldn't have acted a fool in my house and then acted a fool on my phone and told me never to speak to you again, and then I'm gonna let you come crash at my house. I'm very disappointed in Daniel, but I'm glad he's on my screen. I'm assuming that she's staying there until her brother lets her come over. Personally, I would have just gone to sleep with my mama. Even though you talk to your parents crazy, they're still your parents. You just got to go with some humility and an apology. So that's the season finale, y'all. I like that it took some risks. I think it set up some new storylines to develop or to crash and burn. As much as I complain about how these characters act, if they all made common sense decisions, this would be some boring TV. So I get frustrated with y'all, but it's because I love you. Everybody can come to my cookout except Kelly, because she seemed like she would try to in my bathroom, and that's absolutely not okay. So that's my recap of the season 2 finale of Insecure. So let me know what you thought of the recap. Let me know what you thought of the finale, and I'll see you soon. I'm recapping 3 new shows this fall. I haven't announced what they are yet, but I will let you know if you follow me on Instagram at Demetria Lucas Doily. The first one picks up September 26th. So tune in. And in the meantime,